All right. And today we are going to talk about, well, section 2, which is about Git and Bash. We actually talked a little bit about this. I wanted to make sure I give you guys the real basic stuff just so you can get going and everything like that versus like waiting until today on Tuesday to finally know like, oh, there's this thing called Git, or oh, I can actually use, the terminal and everything. So we'll go into a little more detail today. This is the time, like, honestly, interrupt me with questions and stuff like that as we get through it. I will tell you right now, I will not make you a master in Git within this 1 hour section. It is a lot to go through. I'll talk about some extra details and stuff like that, but I will tell you is that there is so much to learn on Git. I'm constantly learning. People I talk to, I know people who have been in the industry, like in computer science for a while and don't know the full details of what you can do with Git. So know that you also do not have to be an expert in Git, but the more you know, the better it is and easier it is to actually use. So let me go ahead and just start sharing my screen. Let's see here. So there, you guys should all see my Jupyter notebook right here going through. Awesome, cool. And I actually have 3 screens here so I can actually see. Oh, I'm not used to having a bigger cohort like this. It's kind of fun. I can't fit you guys all on one screen, so that's that's why I'm kind of moving windows around. Okay, I know you guys can't see me moving around windows, but trust me, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so this is basically the repo that I have, right, for Flatiron resources. I try to organize it in this way. So we're actually going to be focusing mostly in 2 parts. So we're actually going to talk about the command line. So I want to show you a little bit about that, which is Unix, and then we'll go right into Git. So the reason why we're talking about the command line is basically, first of all, let me see. Give me a thumbs up if you've already used Git at this point, which hopefully you have. Okay, now give me a thumbs up if you are using the Git desktop, whether that's for Windows or for Mac, like it's kind of a UI stuff. Okay, I see 1 thumbs up. Who has been using Git using the command line? So kind of like the typing terminal at the back. Good. All right, good. So I saw Akiva there. He gave a thumbs up on both, so that's good. I will tell you is that you can use the desktop. I will highly recommend using the command line explicitly when you're first learning it, particularly because it's a lot easier to use Git if you've already learned it that way, and then switching off to another system, especially if you're remoting into a remote system, whether it's a Linux system or Windows system or whatever. It just ends up being a little bit easier versus like trying to find the UI. I don't believe Git actually makes a UI full, like a GUI, graphic user interface for Linux. So like, and it turns out most of the things you will probably work in data science are probably going to be Linux based. So it's good to kind of know how to use the command line and everything like that. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So I'm going to go through most of the stuff pretty quickly just because I think, we've talked about this last time, but if you have questions, interrupt me, right? Let me know that you guys have any questions about it. Okay, so command line, you hear people say like, the terminal, command line, command prompt. Note that I'm gonna talk most about Linux and Unix based. If you are using Windows, you should mostly be able to equate the things that we're doing with Git Bash. Windows is a little bit different filing system, so just know there's a little bit of a difference in there. But for the most part, we can kind of follow along if you use something like Git Bash or another Unix emulator. Okay, so basically, it's a way to like navigate into whatever system we're doing. And most of the time, especially for data science, your computer, your local computer, like not on the internet, it's probably not going to be strong enough to actually do a lot of those tasks that we're going to do. Basically, there's a lot of data, think like big data and stuff like that, just not going to work on your computer, a lot of processing. So a lot of times we'll actually use a server, and a lot of times those servers are based on Unix. So it's useful to know how to do this. And a lot of times on your server, all you see is just a little terminal that you can kind of type into. So knowing how to navigate through that will be really, really useful. Okay, so the main thing is navigate. I kind of talked about this last time, is that you can think of like directory or folder. They're basically the same thing. And we have our little shortcuts, which is our dot, so single period. 2 dots our single dot is our current directory, basically where you are right then. 2 dots basically saying the directory above it. So kind of like think of a folder within a folder. It's the folder that is above it. And then the star here is going to be a wildcard. Basically, it's like, oh, whatever matches this name, just match it with this. So those are some basic navigation parts. Note that is a hierarchical structure. So basically, you might see something like this in a Linux computer. Basically, you have something like the root folder right here. So it's like the top level domain, top level directory. And then you can go into these directories into here. Note there are some weirdness sometimes you can do. Like you can see this arrow going from bin over to this bin over to here. These are kind of like links and stuff like that. But for the most part, it means that if you try to navigate into, like, let's say going from here, you navigate into bin, you can actually navigate out of that too with a link. So you kind of like work like a hierarchy. For the most part, you can think of it like top down. So if I want to go into, let's say, Bob over here, I'd have to, and I'm starting from here, I'd have to go into the directory of home and then into the directory of Bob. So I can actually find my way through there. Okay. This all makes sense so far. I think most people now are familiar enough with computers where it's not like completely foreign. Okay, cool. So some quick commands like pwd, which basically is like, where am I, right? This is basically your working directory. So working directory meaning like the current directory you're in. This is really nice to say, like, where am I? Like, I can't figure out where things are. pwd will kind of take you where you need to go. CD is basically stands for changing directory. So basically it's like how you can change into a new directory, right? And kind of navigate through here. So if I wanted to go to Bob over here and I'm in home, I can do CD Bob and I would get into Bob. Okay. Exploring ls. So I'm talking about ls-l can give you a list of the files and stuff, have some extra information. But the main thing is listing like what is in this current directory right now. Okay. Kind of a quick things that I didn't talk about last time. So if you're actually in a directory on your command line, and let's say, okay, I have this file, I want to know more about it. You can type certain things to like read things through. So one of the commands is called head, which basically reads in the first part of the file. So you can just see like what is the head of the file. There's also more and less, which basically puts parts of the file plus some more, depending on what you do. And then there's also some editors. So nano is probably like, if you look at tutorials and stuff like that, people say like, oh, nano, and then like the name of the file. This is an editor on most systems that you can do to like directly edit the file while you're inside the command line. Another common one is VI, which I will tell you is that if you are not familiar with VI, like be careful because it's like hard to get out of it, but it's actually really, really useful. Another equivalent one is Emacs, but to be honest, I'm more of a Vim person myself. So sorry, everyone who's using Emacs. Cat is actually a really useful kind of reading, but also writing tool. So it's not really an editor, but it's a nice kind of like thing to basically quickly edit files. So you'll sometimes see me use cat when I'm using the terminal and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm going to show you a little bit of these commands, but any questions on navigating ls, pwd, cd? Sound pretty good? Cool, awesome. So let me go ahead. So this is a fun thing that maybe you didn't realize. You can actually open up a new terminal within Jupyter Notebook. So if I actually go over to this new right here, you can see there's a terminal, and it will actually open up a command line right here, which is super useful. And so let's say I want to know where I am. So note this is bash 3.2. Bash is basically like, not to go into super complex like what this is, basically it's the way we're interacting with the command line. Essentially, whatever you can do on your computer, you can kind of do in the terminal. So what if I want to see where I am? What do I type? This is kind of like review stuff. PWD, perfect. So you can see this is where I live right here. So note that this starts from the very beginning, which is this backslash or forward slash, and then users, vguy slingers. It's like usually if you're on a Mac, it's kind of like your home directory, right? And then this is basically some other parts. So I have a directory called developer, and then inside of workspace, and then Flatiron, and then resources, and then finally Flatiron School Data Science Curriculum Resources. This is my GitHub repo. All right, so cool, I know where I am. How do I want to see the directory? Or let's say I want to see what options are available for me, what directories are. ls, yeah. So ls, you can see here, it lists them out, alphabetical order. I can also do ls-l. You'll see me use this because I like to have it in a nice like list-like form like this. So you can kind of see with some extra information with creation and stuff like this. So it's like, okay, cool. Like I can actually see, like these are all folders right here. And then you can see this guy right here. This is actually a file, this README file. So if I want to check out this README file and just see what it looks like, I can do more and then README. So note that right here, it basically prints out the what this README looks like. So it's kind of like reading out that file. And note that basically I reached the end here and I can kind of move up and down. I'm using my arrow keys and you can kind of see me go up and down like this. And you're like, okay, cool. Like you saw the first part, but what if you want to like get out of it, right? So I can like try scrolling all the way to the bottom. And note if I do space, it'll just tab all the way down or kind of space through. And if I keep going all the way down, it'll finally end. But instead of doing that, if you want to get quit, you're like, oh, I got to version 2.0. okay, that's all I really cared about, you can just type the letter Q and it'll quit out of that, and then you don't have to like worry about it. So nothing's just reading the file. You can also, I'm going to do clear, right? So clear kind of just gets rid of this chunk so I don't have to look at it. Doesn't really change anything, just makes it nice and easy. I can also do something like more. I do a readme, and you can see like that. I don't know if actually, did I do head or more last time? I think I did more, didn't I? So more, you can kind of like go scroll through it. Another one you can do is like head. So let's say like, oh, I don't really want to scroll, I just want to see the first few lines. So you can see like head, and you can see the first few lines here. So you can actually specify even like what specific lines and stuff like that. So that can be really useful, especially if you like a CSV that you're trying to read in and you want to see like what's the first few lines, but not have to read the whole file in. Head can be really, really useful. I didn't put it in this command line, but opposite of that, yeah. What's the opposite of the head? You want to guess? Tail.
Tail.
Tail, good. All right, no one said but, so that's good. All right, so tail, and basically tail will show me the last few lines of the file and stuff like that, which can also be really useful if you want to just check on like what the last few things are. Okay, cool. Everyone following me pretty well? Awesome, cool. So if you want to edit directly on here, you could, for example, I can go over here and actually edit the file on Jupyter Notebook, and you can see here's the file and stuff like this, which is something you're pretty used to, like if you're like using Word or something like that. You can directly edit in the command line. You can do like something like nano readme, and you see here basically I can do here, and I can even type like all that stuff. Note that to save things and like kind of exit out, you'll see these little shortcuts right here. So Control X. So note that this little up arrow like that usually represents Control. So Control X will exit out of here. Control, where am I at? I never use nano. Control O will basically write to it and then exit out. You can also, let's see, I actually don't know the right way to save without. Does anyone know nano well enough to how you save without exiting?
No, Control O just saves it. You have to
Oh, am I
Control
wrong?
O, Control X to get out of
Oh,
it.
thank you. There you go. So you can see here, I press Control O, file name, write to this file. I can press Enter, right? Or you can delete this part. Thank you for thank you for clarifying that. I never use nano. And then Control X is to exit out. So if you get stuck here, like, whoa, what did I do? You can edit out and then do all that stuff. So Control X can exit out. If you get stuck in, VI, Vim, you can use that. Note that if you go into VI and you start trying to type, so for example, if I start typing like, let's say I'm trying not to type something that's worse, but let's say I type L, you'll notice that nothing's appearing until I press, like, let's say the letter I. Yeah, and now you can see me start typing here and everything like that. So VI has some little interesting kind of like ways you can write stuff in. I won't go through all those commands. If you want to go into VI, there's a bunch of VI Vim tutorials. But if you get stuck here, which is probably what will happen if you don't know VI, the main thing is you'll see if I press I, you can see there's insert mode at the bottom here. I want to get out of this insert mode. I can press escape and you'll see that disappear. And then it's like, okay, I want to quit. Like, how do I quit? You can just do colon and then Q, and that will basically quit out of it. If you have changes in there, you can also do colon Q exclamation point. We'll basically say force quit. I don't care. I'm not saving anything. Just get out of it. But I mostly show that to you because sometimes people find tutorials with VI and then never know how to get out of it. So again, another editor that's useful, but you don't have to use this. Okay, cool. Sound pretty good for everyone? Awesome. One quick thing I'll show is cat. So cat kind of looks like reading out the file, but you'll notice that it reads out the whole file, like so, like that more. It's kind of a quick thing you can do to check things out, but I'll use cat because I'll like write to a new file. So I'll do like cat to this, what's it called? This arrow to like, let's say text.txt, and I can actually start typing here. And then I can press Control D and that ends it. And so if you look now, there's now a text.txt. In fact, I can check it out now and you can see there's all my material right there. So sometimes I'll use cat and stuff like that to pass in stuff. So that's a nice little quick thing to do, but note that this arrow right here means that if I type in, let's say cat text again, and I type in hello, and then I Control D, this is going to completely overwrite this test.txt. So if I do now more.txt, you'll see it just says hello. So if you want to append to it, one way you can do that is just this extra arrow right here. And now I can say hello. My name is Victor. Then you can see more. There you go. So you can see it actually appended to it. So this can be useful if you just want to quickly like add something to a file and stuff like this. There's some more advanced stuff you can do with this double arrows and stuff like that, but I'm not going to go into full details just because I just want to make sure you guys know the basics right now. Okay, cool. I'm about to show you something. Don't do this. You can remove a file. I will tell you is that using RM can be very, very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I debate if even showing you what the really dangerous thing is. You can delete your whole file system if you're not really careful. And it's like less than like 6 characters on the screen, and it can delete everything that's in there. So I'm not going to show that to you. But my warning to you is don't use RM unless you are well backed up, you know what you're doing, and it's not your computer. No, just make sure you don't do it. Okay. So that's my advice for you guys right now. As you guys get more advanced, then you guys can use more dangerous tools. Okay, cool. Any questions on Bash stuff? I kind of tried to do this really quickly so I can get right into Git. Yeah.
Can I just offer one more shortcut? You had the tilde.
Mm-hmm.
If
Oh,
you
yes.
do CD tilde, takes you right back to your home directory.
Yeah. So one kind of fun thing is if you do CD tilde, this is what we call our home directory. This is kind of like where you live in your home. So I'm actually going to show you PWD so I can copy this really quickly. But if I do CD tilde, where did I go? I went home. So this is my home directory. So it's a nice thing. You also equivalently could do CD home, and that will do the same thing. So then if you see PWD, you see this part. So it was really nice, like for example, like, oh, you can see this like users, V guy slinger, blah, blah, blah. You sometimes can just go CD tilde, it's kind of like a little shortcut. And then you can do a developer, and I can actually tab workspace, Flatiron, oops, spell it right, resources, and then Flatiron part. And then I am back to the directory I care about. Thank you. Yeah, tilde is a really nice, convenient one. It's kind of like, if you don't know where to go, just go home. Okay, cool. Yeah, anything else?
Yeah, and since we're using Git, and you may want to look into the .git file, ls-al will show you your all listings, including hidden, which all the dot files are.
Yeah, so you can see this ls-a, or like we said, ls-la. It'll list them out like this. So -a basically will show you hidden files. So which include this .git, this .gitignore. If you're using a Mac, .dsstore. Basically the .dsstore is kind of like a cache for other stuff. I won't go into detail. Basically, you can kind of ignore this. And you'll also notice there's double, like 2 dots here and a dot. That's again representing your current directory or the directory above. So you can actually CD to these parts too. Or you can even do like ls ... and you can see all the other parts that are in my directory above this. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And honestly, there's so much more, like so much different flags and stuff like this. I don't want to go into full detail of it. But I think the curriculum even shows like a link to more commands and stuff like that that you can play around with. And you'll find the main things I would say is ls, cd, pwd, right? And then just knowing how to open up files and stuff like that, just quickly checking it out. Okay, cool. Quick things I kind of put in is making directories and stuff. So I'm just going to show you guys the quick things like make directory. So that can actually make a new folder. So mkdir, and then the name of the directory. You sometimes use touch. I don't think the curriculum mentions it, but you can do touch, a name of the file, and this will create a new file with nothing in it. So that can be kind of useful, like when you're just on the command line, you just want to make an empty file so you can put stuff into it. CP, so CP meaning copy, so you can actually copy a file. You can even copy a directory, but sometimes you have to make sure that you actually have like that name of the directory. There can be some extra complications, but you can copy that name of the file. Basically, you do copy the name of the file that you want, and then the name that you want to copy it to. And then I mentioned cat. Okay. Just kind of showing you guys. MV is very similar to like move. So you move, MV is very similar to copy. So you basically say move this, directory or file name, and then a space with the new name and the new destination of where you want. So that can be useful too, instead of you dragging and dropping everything. And then I mentioned RM. Just be careful, like, cause it won't ask you. It will just like do it, like so. Be aware of remove, because it will be super crazy if you're not careful. So a couple of things too, man and SSH. I also didn't show sudo, which is sudo. Basically, it's like super user. this can basically, if you notice, for example, I do ls, I can do sudo ls, and you're like, what happened? Basically, it's saying, hey, it's giving you, you're saying, I'm giving you permission as like the user. So like, imagine like when you do something on like your Mac or something like that, or even Windows, it might give you a password. Well, I don't think Windows does this, but like gives you a password. Says, hey, type in your password. This password is like whatever you use to log into your computer, essentially. But I'll stop that. Oh yeah, if you ever get to a point like you can see here, cdls, and like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. You know, like I just want to get out of here. Control C will quit you out of whatever you're doing. So it can be really useful. Like if you type the wrong thing, you're like, I don't know what's going on. Control C is basically the stop command. Okay, cool. So that was me going through real quick stuff. Man, basically get help. So you can do like, let's say, I don't know what ls, like what can I do with ls? You can do man ls, and it'll show you the whole manual of like all the different things you can do with just this little ls, right? So you can see already, these are all the different flags, different options and stuff like this. So you can see, you can go very, very far details. So it's kind of fun though. You can also do sometimes lssh. Oops, no, ls doesn't have that. So sometimes you can do it -h to give you the help file, but in general, man ls will basically pull up this help file if it exists. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna move on then from Git and stuff like, or not, from bash into Git. Sound good? Cool, awesome.